I'm Samuel Diaz III with Southwest Community Health Center, and I'm here bringing you another video in our series around mental health awareness. Today we're going to be speaking about trauma. I have with us Meg Zimmer. She is one of the coordinators for our CBITS program within the schools. We'll get to that a little bit later. But Meg, thank you so much for coming today, speaking with us.
Yeah.
You know, this is a great new series for our organization and for our community. So, first question, let's talk about what is trauma?
So trauma is when a person feels intensely threatened by either an event that they've either experienced themselves or that they've witnessed. And so trauma, sometimes when we think about trauma, we automatically go to thinking about like post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, and maybe veterans coming home with trauma issues. But there's actually a lot of different types of traumas, and they can include things like refugee trauma, physical or sexual abuse. They can include things like school violence or community violence, medical trauma. So there's all these various different types of trauma or traumatic events that can happen.
And those traumatic events, those are things that can start out from childhood, right? And then lead all the way through adulthood.
Yeah, so anyone could experience a trauma at any point.
Yeah.
And so a trauma that's maybe left untreated could carry on into adulthood that began in childhood or kind of come back up later in life.
Yeah, you know, we have, it's funny when we talk about the new age of kids coming up and the type of consequences they receive.
Right.
And we think about what our parents did with us.
Right.
Sometimes some of those things are like borderline, that was a traumatic experience.
Right.
You know, for me, I'm like, oh, you gotta get a cocotazo bull. Oh, that's traumatic, man.
Right.
But overall, you know, it's interesting how now we're identifying, you know, those traumatic experiences that may have taken place in our youth and giving them tools to help them with that.
Right.
Within the CBITS program, so that's located within our school-based health centers. Southwest Community Health Center has, is it 7, right? 7 school-based health centers?
7 school-based health centers.
7 school-based health centers across the city of Bridgeport. And we offer medical, dental, and behavioral health services. One of the shining stars with the behavioral health services is our CBITS program. Can you tell us a little bit more about CBITS?
Yeah, so CBITS is a program that we has been developed to work with children that are age in 6th grade and up. And then there's also a developmental adaptation for grades K through 5 for younger children called Bounce Back. So CBITS stands for Cognitive Behavioral Intervention for Trauma in Schools. It's kind of a mouthful, so we just call it CBITS. And the program is a 10-week program, so it meets once a week during the child's school day, and it's a small group that works on various, teaching the kids various coping skills and strategies to help them be able to handle the symptoms that they're experiencing in the hope to reduce those symptoms. So there's actually like 3 kind of goals with CBITS. One is to, you know, for the program is to reduce the child's symptoms that they're experiencing. So it could be like a depression, anxiety. They could be having behavior challenges at home and at school. Some kids avoid school or skip school. So there could be all of these things that are trauma related that kids are, you know, having happen to them. And so the other part of goal with CBITS is to really build resilience and help children be able to kind of bounce back from what happened to them. We also want to really increase peer and parent support. So that's another goal of the program. So by having it in the small group, we're increasing some peer support. We see that sometimes kids who are in the program have now become friends and they have a friend outside of the group. They also, we really work to try to increase the parent support or the caregiver involvement with the program. Yep. And so those are some of the 3 kind of main goals that we work on in CBITS.
It seems like you're offering that program, that CBITS program is really offering like wraparound services for success for each of the children, which is awesome. You know, it's unfortunately sometimes our youth may not be able to accurately depict what they're going through and explain their feelings and talk about those emotions just because they don't have the tools to grasp to them. So this program would be giving them those tools to identify a traumatic experience, speak about their feelings, and then tools so that when they're successful later on.
Yeah, definitely. And so some of the tools that we actually do in the program are we talk about what our common reactions to stress or trauma might be. Those could be things like having nightmares after the event or not being able, like thinking about it all the time and not being able to stop thinking about it. It could be feelings of guilt or shame. Some kids even experience medical kind of issues. So we might have kids who have aches and pains, or they might have severe stomach upset, or things like that because of the trauma that happened to them. So that's one area that we work on. And then we also teach kids how to reframe their thoughts, which is where we take like maybe an unhelpful thought and help the kids being able to identify how to make it into a more helpful thought that can kind of help them move out throughout the day and kind of not be stuck in those unhelpful thoughts. We also tackle avoidance. A lot of times there is, when a trauma happens, children have things that they start avoiding after. So it could be, especially in younger children, we see like they stop sleeping in their own room. They might be sleeping in the room with their parents, or they're afraid of the dark. We also see, like I mentioned earlier, like school avoidance sometimes. And so what we do is we try to identify with the parent and also with the student what the avoidant thing that they're avoiding, and they then develop what we call a ladder, an I can do it ladder, to kind of help them take small steps to being able to work towards that thing that they've been avoiding. And obviously it has to be something that's like safe and is not going to harm them. We also work on problem solving in the program. So we teach the kids various things where we identify our thoughts and what kind of actions those might lead to, and we brainstorm different actions that we could take to solve a problem and weigh the pros and cons to help us figure that out.
I may have to talk with you off screen about the reframing of thoughts. That seems like it'd be helpful for us adults as well. So
it definitely is.
No, well, I appreciate you so much for coming in today and speaking with us, being a part of the series. Mental Health Month and the stigmas around mental health. It's unfortunate that they are there, but we're doing our best to try and destigmatize it and make it normal to seek mental health services. And starting young, I think, is imperative to us having a successful future for our next generation and normalizing mental health. Southwest Community Health Center, we have services offered to you in our schools as well as in our bricks and mortar locations around the city. We could be reached at 203-330-6000 or on our website swchc.org. You can also follow us on social media at Southwest CHC. Talk to you soon.